we read the script first, I was really drawn to it as a psychological study of these two strong figures who end up in this slow motion collision toward each other under conditions of extreme scrutiny, a country's expectations on their shoulders, in a situation that ends up blowing up their own dreams and those of a lot of people around them. This is almost like one country's window into the World Cup, but it could easily be a lot of others.
Irish preparations for the World Cup are in full swing.
Paul Fraser's brilliant script. It becomes like a fever dream that takes place on this tropical island, and you know, the absurdity of what goes on that island as well is really brought out.
We don't have the kits, we don't have the drinks, we don't have the sun cream, we don't have footballs.
We're just doing drills, we can manage without that stuff.
Without footballs?
It'd be better if we had footballs.
It's a beautifully simple dramatic structure of a story, but it allowed you to realise like 20 years is not very long ago, but it's also very long ago in terms of the way that the world operates, and that felt really fascinating.
Roy and Mick's relationship predates SAIPAN by at least a decade. Their paths continue to cross even to this day.
We were lucky enough to be working with Steve Coogan, who's a genius, as well as Aina Hardwick, who is just the most beautiful and brilliant young actor, and there were moments of improvisation that came up that were just glorious. It just developed those characters that were so beautifully on the page.
Did I wake you?
Paul had Steve in his head when he was writing the piece. It was perfect just that we had that alignment. When Aina came into the room, we really felt that he did embody Roy's energy. He had that physicality. He felt like the captain of Ireland as he walked through the door. There are layers within the performance. It's bringing out that humour, the humanity, the intensity, and Aina perfectly captured that.
Do you call this little setup you got going on here man management?
We always knew we were not making a documentary about this time. We were telling the fever dream. We wanted to get a sense of what people were imagining was happening as much as anything else.
What was true of that pitch was it was not a football pitch. Bricks and masonry had been dumped, and then some turf had been put on top of it, so there were bricks sticking out of it.
It'll do for what we need.
Why, since when have we needed a rockery? I mean, seriously, you're asking lads to risk injuring themselves in it. Why?
We started to employ kind of archive and graphic footage to create those two aspects and versions of the world alongside each other, fragmenting the perspective and having a lot of different ways to look at the story.
For the very start of the argument, so the blocking is very much Roy in one corner, Mick in another corner, and then actually the camera movement. We certainly looked at a lot of boxing films and used those as an influence. There is a tiny little audio cue, so every time Mick and Roy have a conversation, there's a little bell rings.
We liked to think of that as these different rounds, and that escalates throughout till this final conversation. And it was really very much about where the power lies. You could feel the atmosphere in the room. You know, they held on to that sort of really potent energy between them.
Now the game's changed.
Oh, undoubtedly.
And we need to be prepared. It's no use having a stopover in SAIPAN if it's going to have a bad effect with lads.
Our starting point was the real hotel. It had a very interesting colour palette. The hotel ended up being a collage of 4 different locations that we were able to piece together with the magic of filmmaking.
There was such a visual incongruity between the idea of these footballers going to train and this beautiful pastel-coloured corridors, almost kind of Miami-esque ice cream palette that felt like the kind of seed of a cinematic universe.
We're going out there to work, aren't we?
And to acclimatise.
The kind of psychological, historical backstory of Irish history and ideas of identity. It's a really kind of potent source for the story, and it's something that has huge resonance all over the world.
SAIPAN.
SAIPAN.
This is SAIPAN.
Come on!